Hello everyone. We're recording and welcome to the July meeting for the Decarbonising Leisure Travel Network. Our network advocates a visitor experience with sustainable transport and shares good practice with destinations and transport operators. Today, we're going to hear from Nigel MacDonald, who is a Sustainable Transport Officer from the Shropshire Hills National Landscape. I think Nigel's going to give himself a better introduction than that and introduce the project. And now I'm going to pass over to Nigel.
Morning, everybody. Just before I start, I get incredibly nervous doing these kinds of things, so do expect me to stumble, do expect me to make a gaffe or two. It's going to happen. I don't know why. It's just doing this sort of thing not in real, as real people, you know, on screens is quite challenging, and I marvel at people who can do this. So
you're among friends, Nigel. Don't worry.
I know, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So hopefully you should see the first screen now. If Angela's sharing her screen and I'm looking at the same screen, I've made the unwise decision to do this in Canva, which for some reason or other we can't get to show as a full screen without showing all my rather tedious notes at the side. So we're trying to save you from that. Are we ready, Angela? I can't see now because I've gone to my main screen.
It's there, Nigel.
Fabulous. Okay, so good morning. Thanks for taking the time to join us for this presentation. As I was just introduced, my name is Nigel MacDonald. I'm the Sustainable Tourism Officer for the Shropshire Hills National Landscape team. And I'm going to be talking about the Shropshire Hills shuttle bus. But first, for a bit of context, next slide, please, Angela. Here, I've got a map here of the Shropshire Hills. It's that kind of, it looks a little bit like a turkey taking off, kind of it's the purple blobby bit in the middle of the screen there. And you'll see that they've put a box around Church Stretton, which gives us roughly our area of interest. This is probably the most visited area, part of the Shropshire Hills. It's the sort of Longmynd and Stiperstones area, and I'm going to talk about the bus that we've been running there for getting on 20 years. It's naturally beautiful and becoming more increasingly popular place to visit for day visitors and also short stay visitors. We estimate there's about 10 million people visit Shropshire, and at least 3 million of those visit the national landscape. And many more drive through it. You'll see the main arterial route coming down from Shrewsbury to Ludlow that's the A49, and that's also the route of the main railway line. And we've got stations at Church Stretton and Craven Arms, which allow access into the hills, as well as the 435 bus service, which is an hourly service running between Shrewsbury and Ludlow, which is, I would say, underused. It only runs on Saturdays in the weekend, runs during the week, but definitely underused at the weekend by leisure travellers. So this bus, we try to connect to all of that. You'll see at the top of the map there also a link there through to the M54, which is the main route in from the main urban conurbations, Telford, going out to Wolverhampton and Birmingham. So we get a lot of day trippers from the Black Country area, as well as coming from the south up through Ludlow, from sort of the M5 kind of area, southwest, Bristol, etc. Okay, next slide then, please. All right, so here's, you see the shuttle in its natural environment. It's a rare upland species, most active at weekends, that's known to frequent the small town in the heart of the Shropshire Hills, Church Stretton, and its nearby villages. Records show that it has been in existence since early 2000s, but has gone through a number of evolutions since then. Although more common in the early noughties with a wider range, including a Wenlockian and Lothian population. The lack of available finance in 2016 forced it to restrict its range. At that time, it also consumed its mate and became a single bus service in the Longmynd and Stuypstones area. It habitually tries to coincide its movements with those of other weekend public transport species in its range and likes to carry up to 19 people at a time. It's a creature of habit, ranging as far as the Stuypstones and Snail Beach villages as it forages for passengers. It's currently known to do this on a 2-hour cycle 5 times a day. Just my attempt at humour. This year, we've tightened up the range and therefore the frequency of the service, focusing on the busier aspects of the route. This has been a gradual attrition of what was a much larger loop, taking in more villages. We try to keep the ticketing as affordable as we can, and I'll show you a slide later where you'll see it's actually very similar and from much earlier on in the shuttle's history. This year we introduced a new contactless ticket machine that's also BODS compliant, and that's been both a blessing and a curse, but we'll talk more of that later. Next slide, please. You should now be on a slide of an old leaflet. Are we there, Angela? That should be. Is anybody
looks
there?
like it. Yeah, it looks like
it. Sorry, for a moment I thought I was talking to myself. God.
It says something about 2025. So this is slide 4, is it?
Slide 4. Move on to the next one. That it should show an old leaflet and National Trust, Natural England, and the Europark logo. Are we there?
Yes.
Fabulous. Okay. Great. Well, I'm going to take you on a trip around the route, but before that, I just wanted to show you this that I found in our archives from 2024. You'll see that at that time we had a lot more going on with public transport, probably because we had a lot more access to funding. And in the middle of that, you'll see the Longmynds and Stuypstones shuttle as that kind of yellow double loop. And you'll also see that we had a Secret Hill shuttle from the Discovery Centre in Craven Arms, and we had one that went from Bishop's Castle out to Kerry. We had one that went up to Much Wenlock in a backwards and forwards kind of route, and a circuit in Ironbridge as well, that until I saw this leaflet, I was entirely unaware of. The bus we're running at the moment, I mean, it started off as a kind of national trust idea to reduce cars on the top of the Longmynd. A chap called Pete Carty came up with the idea, and I had some funding at the time to help do something with it. So we started this loop that basically just went up and over the back of the Longmynd, and then Natural England, or English Nature as it was at the time, also then developed one around the Stuypstones for the Stuypstones Stomp, which was a walk over the top of the National Nature Reserve. So it picked up either end of that. And then we combined the two, and Les Lumsden, I think, Les, you're on the call, I think I saw you earlier. Les got involved as well and refined the whole system. And we've been running that system for a good few years, something like 12 years, when we basically run out of money and things had to change. So when I said earlier in that rather facetious little dialogue about it consuming its mate, we have literally done that. It used to be a 2-bus service running 2 circuits, and it was an hourly service. It's now a 2-hourly service, just running 1 bus, and we've had to reduce the scope of the circuits. And if we could go on to the next slide, please, Angela. So you should now be looking at a picture of a bus in a car park, or what looks like a car park. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, that's right.
Good, fabulous. So I've just realised if I minimise my screen, I can see what you're looking at. That's good. Technology, man, just amazing. Right. So this is where we start. This is Cardingmill Valley. As you see, there's an awful lot of cars that you can just about see going up the valley there. So the valley has the capacity for about 250 cars. It's very, very popular and becoming more so. When I first started working in the National Landscape team, that was the area of Outstanding Natural Beauty team, back in 2014, the valley closed, probably getting on for 5 or 6 times a year. When I say closed, they had to close it to new cars. They had to close off the entrance so that and manage cars going in and out. Now that happens on an almost weekly occurrence, that the valley gets full by about 11 o'clock, and they have to then open additional car parking around Church Stretton, sort of temporary car parking in the school and at the leisure centre. And so all that's happened in a very short time, sort of 10 sort of years, really. And during that time, the buses also continued to run. One of the difficulties of the bus is trying to get it in and out of the valley. That's one of the things that affects the timetable really quite considerably to pick people up. The National Trust are still one of our major contributors, funding wise, and give support and promotion for the bus. So it's important that they still feel connected to it, so that I don't lose that funding, but also so we pick up people from Cardingmill Valley, and that's where the bus starts and ends each of its runs. The next slide, please, Angela. That should show, there we go, some unfeasibly young people at the railway station in Church Stretton. We try to pick up there. This year we're only actually going there once for the first run of the day, because that's the only time it actually makes sense. We did used to go come hell or high water, just to prove that we are connecting to the train service, but actually the trying to tie up the timetable to when the trains arrive have been really, it just became too difficult. So we now encourage people to walk into the town to catch the bus at a different stop when essentially the trains arrive and depart, whilst the bus is also out on the route, so people get to explore Church Stretton for a little while before catching the bus. This photo, incidentally, is for a photo shoot that we did recently for part of a Facebook campaign. I'll talk about that in a little while. Next slide, please, Angela. Great. So now you've got a picture of the same young people up on the Longmynd. There's timetables along the routes that we put out every year. We put these little flags on the timetable cases as well, so people can see where the timetable is, but also the kind of direction of travel. It's directly deliberately a triangular shaped flag to sort of say it goes that way, because it's linear and goes in one direction. And unlike that photograph, which shows all those lovely young people, most of the people who ride on the bus are considerably older, 50s plus, I would say. An awful lot of them are relatively, or if not completely, local. Church Stretton Town Council is also one of the funders for the bus, and I tell them every year just how they are delivering this service, or helping to deliver this service for their local residents. Most of the comments on commerce I get, emails I get, and I do get an awful lot of them, are from local residents and regular users, frequent flyers, I like to call them. And I'm doing more and more to try and engage and involve local people in how the bus is run. Next slide, please, Angela. So there you go. There's the money shot. That's why people want to get on the bus. An awful lot of the people who do use the bus quite frequently can no longer drive or don't feel comfortable driving. It is really quite a hairy drive up onto the Longmynd along the Burway. It's a bit of a goat track, and if you've got traffic, it's a single track road, and you've got traffic coming in both directions. It's very steep, with a very steep drop off into Cardingmill Valley. So yeah, people literally get halfway up it and freeze, especially if you're unused to driving on that sort of road. So the bus is perfect for those people. And then sort of older people who no longer have their cars, or people who've actually deliberately taken the choice to get rid of their cars, like to use the bus at the weekend. And we have people travelling for the day from quite often on public transport as well, from Shrewsbury and further afield, to catch the bus. We have a regular person comes over from Wellington to use the bus, and some more from sort of the Wolverhampton area. So yeah, and some of the people use the bus every weekend without fail. So we have some real loyalty in this service. And when the weather is gorgeous, you can see why. Next slide, please, Angela. We also like to stop at the pubs. The bridges, as you see in this picture, has recently been repainted and looks lovely on the outside, and the shuttle bus has historically always stopped there. That used to be the place where the two buses, the one that Natural England run and the one that the National Trust run, coincided, and they used to wait for each other so people could transfer from one bus to the other, and then it was made into this kind of figure of eight. And the bridges has always been a main focus. It is a really lovely place to spend time. Recently been taken over by a new owner, and they've really upped the game as well. And there's some beautiful walks from that area as well. You can walk along the Shropshire Way, along the Darnford Valley. It's very, very pretty. And the next slide, please. It also goes up to the Stones National Nature Reserve, which is very popular with walkers, and you can walk back to bridges from the nature reserve, and also down to the bog, which is a little visitor centre in an old school. You may well know it. It's getting increasingly popular. One of the spanners in the works this year is, after we published the timetable, they decided to change their opening hours, so they wouldn't actually coincide with the first bus. So I had to plead with them to think again. So they've rather than opening later in the day and running later in the day, they're opened earlier in the day and closed later in the day, which is good. But they're essentially run by volunteers, and feeling completely overwhelmed by the amount of people they were getting coming in. But again, they've always been a great supporter of the bus. The bus has always dropped off at the bog centre, and it is a popular stop with people. Next slide, please. And it has the bus, so it has this lovely route that goes through all these little villages. This is essentially a mining area, going back to the lead mines, which go back right the way back to pre-Roman times, but was at one time one of the largest lead mining areas in Europe, one of the most productive lead mining areas in Europe, sort of Sniper Stones and Snail Beach area. So this is it, the bus coming into Sniper Stones village, with the Sniper Stones Inn on the right hand side there, you'll see. And again, that's a lovely place for to stop for a beer or Sunday lunch. Very popular location for Sunday lunch. And then behind you can see the bottom end of the Sniper Stones Ridge. That's Crow's Nest Dingle, so you can walk up onto the ridge from there. So it's a nice walk from the southern end of the Sniper Stones Nature Reserve over the top and down into the pub to then catch the bus back. So that's really quite a popular way of doing it for the fit. Next slide, please. And this is Wildmoor Pool, which is on the route back. So we take a slightly different route back, which goes over the northern end of the Longmynd and goes through Duckley Nap, or Wildmoor Pool and Duckley Nap. It goes past the campsite as well, and they're becoming increasingly more switched on to the potentials of catching the bus. And we've noticed this year from the results getting back from the ticket machine how many people are picking up at various places, and that campsite seems to be getting the bus seems to be more popular with the campsite visitors this year, which is good. And we've done more to promote it at that campsite as well. And then the next slide, please. Right, now we're into the figures. So I've mentioned this ticket machine. We bought it because we got a donation last year. We were using these antiquated old machines that were sort of digital, almost analog in their quality. They were allegedly touchscreen, but you had to press pretty hard to get them to work. And they were and the batteries on them were expensive to replace. And they gave us no data at all at the end. All we got was a Z read. this new machine. It's a Transmac TM920 machine. We've stuck with Transmac because we've been with them for years, and their service has been absolutely superb. And they've helped us set up the machines and set up all the various menus that need to be used to sell the tickets, the number of different types of tickets that we sell. So we sell singles from point to point. We sell a day rover ticket, which you can ride all the way around, excuse me, and get on and off. And we also now sell a scenic tour, so people who want to just stay on the bus and use the seat all the way around can ride all the way around without having to get off. And we sell that at a slightly higher price of £7. And the reason for that is because we found that people were tying up seats in the real busy time. They wanted to stay on the bus, but it was at the peak time when people wanted to get on and off, and we were finding that people couldn't get on the bus because it was full of people who were riding around. So we tried to channel people into the quieter times to do the scenic tour, leaving more capacity on the bus for the return trips for people who've walked out of Church Stretton and want to catch the bus back. But as you'll see from this, the thing we promoted from the beginning is the idea that people ride the bus out and walk back. And these figures are the first time we've actually had categorical evidence that that is exactly what's happening, because you'll see that the passenger numbers, and this is for the whole period so far, have been much higher at the beginning of the route, which is at Cardigan Mill Valley, than picking up at the end of the route. You'll also see we've taken in the 16 days, so 8 weekends since we started on the 10th of May, we've taken almost £1,900 and carried 523 passengers. The back office for this machine is absolutely beguiling. You could spend hours going through so many different bits of information. It blows your mind really what you're capable of finding. So it's completely changed the way we look at the data for the shuttle bus, and told us a lot more than we ever really knew in the past, where it was just sort of anecdotal evidence from passengers and drivers, despite occasionally doing onboard surveys as well. If we go to the next slide then, please, Angela. So new for 25, we've got, as I mentioned, these new contactless ticket machines, and I believe that they've increased the income. They've certainly increased the flexibility of how people pay, and that's definitely paying off. We've got more passengers using the bus. We have been running for slightly longer this year when you compare it with last year, where we started later in May, but the average passenger count is considerably higher, and the average income is considerably higher per day. And we also got a small grant from the UK Shared Prosperity Fund to do some Facebook paid ads using Visit Shropshire. So we've tied in Visit Shropshire as a partner as well, and they're running these paid ads for us. And that was the reason for the photographic shoot with all the young people, because although all these are sort of in their 20s, but for the first time we've said children under 16 travel free. You can have three, as an adult, you can travel with three children, young people under 16, and they'll travel free. It's only you have to buy a ticket. What we've also found is that the new technology is an issue for the drivers. Drivers have been very, very difficult to get this year. We use the same company for the last several years, Bolton's, who are brilliant, and we work very, very closely with them, very much on first name terms, on the drop into the office and have a chat kind of setup. Often pop round to Mick Bolton's house to chat to him about the service. He's very, very keen to make it work. He's one of these people, he doesn't do anything by halves. So he's there most weekends if he needs to be. He's there at the bus, helping with the bus. He drives the bus himself. If he can't find a driver, he's very much behind us, and we've got a really excellent working relationship. But the reality is that Mick's 71, and his drivers are of a similar sort of age. When we've had younger drivers, they drive too fast. We get complaints from passengers that they are on mobile phones when they're driving along, or not able to talk about the area. They just talk about their lives. And the drivers we have got really are because they're finding it more and more difficult to drive the bus for the day. When you think about it, they get the bus from the depot something like 8:15 in the morning for the 9 o'clock service, and they finish their day dropping the bus off at Mick's house at about 6 o'clock. They drive to their hours. Obviously, they're on a taco, so we have to program in the driver's breaks into the timetable. But it's a very, very long day for anybody. And I mean, I've now ridden on the bus twice all day, working as a ticket conductor to help them with the ticket machines when we first introduced them. And I mean, I'm getting on a bit, but you know, it was a long day. It was a long day for me too. So you just kind of appreciate what they have to go through. So using the new machine, although it's a relatively simple system to use, they've really struggled with that. So we've tried to recruit volunteer conductors, which we trialed this weekend, and it went down very well. So although we lose a seat on the bus, we do have somebody on the bus who can talk about the area, who can talk to the passengers, who can get some instant feedback from what they like, what they don't like, etc., etc. And we'll do a survey later on in the year with them. And we're trying to recruit more so that we can do. They only have to do a morning or an afternoon, Saturday or Sunday. So we'll have 4 to 6 if we can, volunteer conductors, and have a little sort of rota thing going. What we've learned, I think, is that when you're planning your service, you've got to work with what you've got. It took me ages to work this out. This sounds crazy when I tell you this. That if you get X amount of subsidy, you work out how many days you can travel, and then you basically take a risk on what you'll get in income for how many extra days. And we pay £400 a day for our bus, so 400 into the £1,300 that we get in subsidy and donations, plus hopefully getting on for £3,000 to £4,000 in bus income. And that gives us how many days that we can travel. And you've got to do that kind of really early on, because the sooner you can get your timetable out. We have people asking us for next year's timetable in October of the year before. So that gives you an idea of people plan their summers around when they're going to use the bus. I've made some mistakes, some big mistakes. Changing the route after COVID because I wanted to try something else, completely bombed. People didn't want to change the service. They want any time I have to make changes, I have to tell people about them. I have to talk to people about them, and I have to do small changes to try and tweak things. And I have to listen very closely to the feedback that I get, because there is a core group of users without whom I would not be able to run the bus, and they're very, very loyal. But they do let it be known when they're not happy with what I've done. So yeah, keeping local users in the loop and encouraging loyalty is essential. And I think I might have skipped a slide. Did I have we shown the slide with the figures on it, Angela? Oh, you're on that slide now, aren't you? Right. Okay. Apologies. Yeah, the point of this slide was I wanted to show you last year's figures against this year's figures. And so we're only 16 days into a 40-day service. We're running until the end of September, and the figures are really, really good compared to last year. And last year was the first time, to my knowledge, the service actually broke even. So we've gone from strength to strength in 2 years. And I think the ticket machines have been really quite really important in that. And having contactless payment, but also I think possibly the Facebook has had quite an impact in attracting new visitors. But for I think for 2 years in a row, the service will be running at making a small profit, which will be good because it's usually underwritten by the National Landscape team out of their reserves, and we've over the years it's lost quite a considerable amount of money where either I haven't quite got it right or we've just had a bad year. So it's nice that after doing this for 10 years, I'm finally actually getting it right. It's prior to that, it was almost totally funded. We didn't have to worry about what we made on it, but now the money's just not there to support the service. And if it didn't break even, I think we would be forced to close it. So we really don't want to do that. So yeah, if I can have the next slide, which Andrew, please. Lovely. I think I've pretty much covered that. Sorry, I all got a bit jumbled towards the end there, as I knew it would. Next slide then, please, Angela. Now, I'm really hoping you're going to be able to play this little film that's down here, and it looks like it is playing. Look at that. Oh yeah, there you go. So this is part of the the Instagram promotion that we'll be doing, and shows the young people having fun. And I thought whilst that plays in the background, I'd just open myself up for questions, and hopefully I can answer them for you.
Thank you so much, Nigel. That was great. And I think we pretty much coped with all of the changes there, and it didn't spiral. So thank you.
Oh, good.
Very much. And I'll open out for questions from the floor if anyone has one. So Richard has his hand up, so I'm going to pass over to Richard.
Hi, Nigel. How are you?
Hey, Rich. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. Yeah, not bad, not bad. Yeah, really just a sort of a generalish question. I know when the Shropshire Hill Settles was set up, it was aimed, as it still is in some part, at leisure users. But you've said in your presentation that you get a lot of locals doing little shoppingy trips and that sort of thing. Has that provided you with a challenge in terms of getting the funding from the original funders? Has it been a plus or a minus?
I think maybe I might have misled you there, Richard. I would say most of the people are leisure users. In fact, probably getting on for 99% are leisure users. There are a couple of people who get on from the far end, the Snail Beach end, to go into Church Stretton to do a bit of shopping. But most of it it's incredibly important socially for people in the community. Some of those use the bus regularly and have told me that they wouldn't get out onto the hills without it. So it's providing a service as well as a tourism service, if you like. But it's also providing a service which is about well-being, and it's about social and sort of community well-being, which is fantastic. And we've got people who come from other parts of the county and meet up with people that they know. The season ticket holders, for example, all know each other now because they're regularly on the bus, and they're like a little gang of people, and they generally go and have lunch together at the Sniper Stones Inn or at the Bridges, and some of them regularly do the same sorts of walks. They kind of got there's a chap who comes and he has a list of walks that he intends to do through the summer, and he uses the bus to get to them. They're his favourite walks. So I would say, yeah, it's almost exclusively tourism. I think the reality is that although the initial idea was to try and reduce cars, actually a 16-seater bus running on a 2-hourly circuit, carrying 523 people in 16 days isn't a massive reduction of cars, where you're regularly now getting 250 cars turning up at Cardinal Valley by 11 o'clock in the morning, and the rest of them having to be parked elsewhere around the town. So the reality is, although we are reducing carbon, and there is a figure, I can't remember what it is, that we worked out in the past about what is that carbon reduction. It's minimal compared to the big picture, but it's important because we're a sustainable tourism destination, and we have an award from Europark Federation, the charter, and this is one of the mainstays of our charter, and has been for the last well, we're into our third 5-year term as a sustainable tourism destination. So this is very much, if you like, a flagship product for us, and helps us to maintain that credibility, really. And I honestly don't think that I could close the bus. I would, although I said, look, if we didn't get the subsidies, if we didn't get the donations, we would really struggle to run. I think we would still run with what we've got, and just hope for the best. Trying to get funding for something that has been running for 20 years is really difficult. Really, they don't want to know. They want a new story, and then starting up a service just in order to get the funding, I think, is lunacy. Because we've tried that, and we've run services that haven't actually been used. So this bus is being used. It regularly gets full, which is an issue, which is why we changed the timetable again this year to try and accommodate more people. But it really is a balancing act. The whole thing is a balancing act. Any other questions? Am I getting off really lightly?
We've got Sue as well.
I was waiting for you
Sue,
to bring me in there, Nicholas. Thanks, Nigel. That was amazing. There's lots and lots and lots of read across to our shuttle bus service that we're trying to get off the ground. I'm not going to go into that at the moment. Kenny might follow me and talk more about that. But a specific question was, what happens when there's too many people to get on the bus? How does the bus company cope with that?
So that was an issue last year that I became acutely aware of. Last year we ran an extra spur of the bus out to a village called Wentner. Nobody was getting on and off at Wentner, although I very much wanted them to, because there's a nice pub there, and also a campsite and a village shop that I wanted to support. But the reality was nobody was interested but me. So we've channeled all of the service and all of the timetable into the same core route that just go backwards and forwards, and we've run it later on into the afternoon. So there's a late service, and also trying to stop people just sitting on the bus and going round on that last run of the day. So we've got more capacity in the day to try and so we don't leave people behind. They're not using it. The reality is the last bus of the day is running home almost empty at the moment. So I think people got so used to we're going to have to catch the earlier bus, just in case the other one, is full, that they're getting on the bus. And so far, I've not had any reports of anybody being left behind. Whereas last year, I got a number of emails from people saying they got left behind. Mick Bolton, bless him, he'll go out and get them if he is that somebody's been left behind. People at the Bog Centre run people back to Church Stretton. Stiperstone's Inn, they'll run you back from there. You could try and get a taxi, but it'll cost you an arm and a leg, and it'll come from Shrewsbury, so almost impossible, and absolutely impossible on Saturday morning, because all the cars locally are doing weddings. So it's always a worry. And this is one of the reasons why we try and encourage people to catch the bus out and walk back. It does mean that they can't go quite as far. Well, some people do actually walk back from the very, very end of the route at Snail Beach, and that's a long walk over the Stiperstones and then over the Longmynd of about 11 or 12 miles. But people do it.
Right. Well, thanks for that.
So there's a couple in the chat, but I'll start with Bill first, who's got his hand up.
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much, Nigel. Wonderful, and an awful lot of consistent issues that we have with Moorsbus, of course. Sue actually preempted my main point, which was, what about the volatility of passenger numbers? If it's a nice day, well, everybody comes out. If it's bucketing down, only those really keen people. And we have that issue, which is why we've discarded any smaller vehicles whatsoever. So, I mean, the first one that comes in from the north, which is from Teesside, for the last 4 weeks, it's been standing room only. It's a 44-seater, and the journey is very wiggly road through Billsdale, and people do just about arrive at Helmsley, but they're pretty exhausted by the exercise. We're running a double-decker from Hull, which again is there to cope with capacity, even though that's a 2-hour journey for people sitting on the bus. Fortunately, it's a modern bus, it's got tables, and the views from the upper deck obviously are brilliant. But that volatility is something that we have fought hard with, and the only issue is really for us to use large vehicles. The one that's full in the morning, we've considered putting a double-decker on that, but unless we spend about several months cutting down trees that are overhanging the road, it's a non-starter. So that's a real issue. But you did highlight some of the 5 C's that we tend to work by. The most important one is probably confidence that the bus is going to be there, and it's going to be there at the end of the day when you want it, and continuity. Yes, when we've dropped services at various times or changed a route, hell breaks loose. People are creatures of habit, of course, as we well know. And given the demographics of an elderly population in particular, including those who either don't have a car or who've been forced to give up driving due to age or other issues, that continuity is something that people argue very, very strongly for, in fact. But it's interesting. Volatility is the issue that we face, and of course, if there's a half-empty bus or a half-full bus, of course, running through a village, people say, what are you running a full-size bus for? People don't realise that at the start of the day, it's been standing room only, but the middle of day services are the quieter ones, and that's where our critics see a half-empty bus. Never mind. But thanks very much, Nigel. Really, really stimulating. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. It's the big challenge we've got is with bus sizes. The most we can run is we can go up legally. We can go up to a 26-seater, I think, on the Longmynd, because the Burway has a traffic regulation order on it, so we can only go up to a certain size bus. But then we couldn't get a 26-seater around a corner at Rattling Hope, where it cuts back onto the Myn, so we would have to change the route. And I did try changing the route 2 years ago, but it was not popular at all, and nobody was interested in getting off at the village further on and down on the A49. We didn't pick anybody up. The other issue is the aged drivers, and driving these great big buses down very, very narrow roads is very stressful, and it amazes me that they do it with a 19-seater, because the roads are getting progressively more busy, and not just with cars. I mean, also we get an awful lot of cyclists and an awful lot of electric cyclists now as well, which can have quite an impact on the frequency of the bus and keeping to the timetable. And the younger drivers just don't seem to be able to keep to the timetable. That the Transmac machine actually gives us data from the guy that we had earlier on in the year, and he was all over the place with the timetable. So he was behind the timetable in the morning and way ahead of it in the afternoon, which, you'd really, if you could change it, you want it the other way around, because if you're behind the timetable in the afternoon, people got more time to get to the bus stop, so aren't going to miss the bus. But anyway, it's a challenge. So we're a bit stuck when it comes to bus size without really rethinking quite a lot about the route, and then having to consult on it locally about making changes. I see that we've got a couple questions.
Ainsley's got a couple of questions there as well.
Do you want to ask them, Ainsley, or shall I just answer
that's fine.
Yeah, it was just to sort of expedite the Q&A that I just popped them in there. Yeah, so it was a question. First of all, thank you very much, Nigel. It was really useful to see and hear your experience, and great that you had those various funding pots as well. So yeah, I just had a question for, and you mentioned as well trying to calculate the the benefit of the bus in terms of carbon reduction. So I could actually ask Google this question, but I thought I'll check here. Do we have any set formula that anyone's aware of for being able to calculate yeah, the carbon offsetting of bus? And that's one question, which maybe if anyone's got anything, it might be easier just to pop an answer in the chat or say now. Sorry, Kenny's got his hand.
I'm deliberately keeping quiet because Richard's here, and I'm thinking, and Bill are bound to be able to come in with some seriously well thought through. Thinking, actually, there are so many people in this chat that can answer this question better than I can.
If you, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I've always used the calculators online, kind of the official government ones, if I want to know what distance is in carbon. But yeah, I don't know if other people have different ways of doing it. There's probably a big methodology out there.
I kind of did it rule of thumb when I did it, Ainsley, which was I found out what the capacity, what the efficiency of the bus was, and I times it by the distance that it traveled during the season to get a kind of rough figure. But yeah, it wasn't in any way precise. It was very much sort of stick your finger in the air and it's about this. So yeah, I'm interested to hear that there are actually calculators out there, and I could have done it a lot easier. So yeah, and then BSOG. So for the last couple of years, we've not been BODS compliant. That was another reason to change the machines. And we found that we physically couldn't afford to do concessionary fares because the majority of people who got onto the bus were concessionary fare ticket holders and pass holders, and it meant that we were not selling enough tickets, and we were having to increase the average cost of the ticket to get enough money back, which made it unaffordable then for people who didn't have the concessionary fares. So it was an utter nonsense. So in the end, we've although we could do it now with the new machines, we will continue not to, but we keep the prices down as low as we can. I mean, a season ticket is £50. A day ticket, if you just do the scenic tour, is £7. Nobody's complaining about the price, although a couple of people said, well, I wouldn't like to see it go up much higher than that. So you'll notice actually the 2004 tickets on that slide I showed and what we're charging now are actually pretty similar. So despite prices going up, it's, you know, we've tried to tie it back, and we also looked at the initiative recently with keeping ticket prices low, £2 single ticket. We try to emulate that as well, because that's what people expected.
Yeah, actually, so just to mention, we've got an open top tour bus, as everyone's pretty aware, and certainly Angela on the call definitely is. And the patronage dropped last year, 14%, which was unprecedented and quite kind of a shock for all involved. So one of the factors we believe it may have been coinciding with the £2 bus ticket. Maybe people are, because parts of that route are covered by service buses, so people maybe opted for that because it is a relatively pricey ticket for the New Forest tour. It's a customer experience, so it offers things that standard buses don't. Anyway, we just so we're in a bit of a quandary at the minute of what do we do, and for the first year we have reduced. So we used to have we've got 3 routes that enter and that overlap and at certain points, and we've reduced buses. So we used to have 2 green buses, 2 red, 2 blue. Now we have 2 green, 1 blue, 1 red. So the idea being to condense suppose, patronage onto those two, and we'll see. But just thought I'd mention that. Yeah, the drop in success of the New Forest tour for us. But yeah, sorry, that's all. Sorry, Kenny's had his hand up, and Alice as well.
Yeah, I've got Kenny, Angela, Alice in that order because there was a chat question from Angela, and then I think that might be after those three.
Yeah, lots of questions. Thanks, Nigel. Like everybody else said, and certainly you hid your nerves very well. So good game face. Yeah, I think two questions was around scalability, I suppose, of whether people are asking you, for a bit more scale, or whether you've got aspirations for that. Because, as you mentioned, 250 people in a car park. Is there a discussion with trying to talk to that audience, which is maybe different from what you've been doing in the past, or maybe do you think it's just a different product and it's a different position? So I think just from our perspective, we're trying to link car parks and that audience with the services and actually leverage out some of the money from those car parks. I don't know if they might be cheaper than your day tickets, I suppose. So it's just wondering if those conversations are going and whether you're getting support from those types of people or officers. That was the main point.
I could probably fill another hour, actually, Kenny, in answering that, unfortunately. I think some of the headlines, people go to Cardinal Valley, there's an awful lot of families carrying picnic stuff. There's no room on the bus for them, for their stuff, and pushchairs and those sorts of things would be a real issue. I'd love to be able to carry more families with younger children, but really it just doesn't work for them. It's not really what they're looking for. The bus was set up as a 2-bus system running an hourly circuit. I haven't yet looked at the figures and how they compare running a single circuit, but because of funding, we couldn't maintain 2 buses, and I think actually also because of the lack of drivers, would really struggle now to do that. But then that had more capacity to obviously carry more people and more flexibility in the system. So in terms of scalability, that it would be lovely to go back to having a 2-bus system. I would dearly like to run other routes out of either Craven Arms or Church Stretton. I'd like to look again at some of the connections that we had in the past with places like Much Wenlock, and go back and look at the figures for those to get a better idea of whether we could do something with them, because there are so few east-west bus services in the Shropshire Hills. I feel we could do it if we could get the subsidy to do it. But I think it would take up pretty much my entire job time. The other thing is I'm part-time, so there's 3 of us actually on the team who work on this. We've got Ali, who works on the admin, does all of the processing of the invoices and things like that, and responds to a lot of the customer queries. We also have Steph that does the promotion, and she responds to a lot of customer queries as well. And then me sort of on the ground running the thing day to day. So it's a lot of work. So there's only so much we can do with a small team and limited resources, I think.
Thank you. Angela?
Yeah, I was really just following up from Ainsley's comment about calculating carbon saving aspect, because that's probably quite small. I think the social value is quite large, but it's probably a bigger debate about can we build on that? Can we sort of demonstrate how important that is? I think from the podcast that the Strettons did, there was a real sense of like people, this meant a lot to people, but it's like, how do you capture that? It's probably not something you can answer, and it's probably part of a bigger debate, really.
I think, we could have a long conversation about that. Some of my previous work was about trying to capture the value of heritage and heritage experiences in terms of social value. It's a fascinating area to try and create a study that's robust and not purely anecdotal, but it's definitely been done in the past. Mentioning the Stretton's podcast, if you've not heard it, it is a bit of a fun listen. I don't talk all the way through it, I promise. And I put the link up. I think, Angela, you've shared the link already as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I had a listen. It's on LinkedIn. It is. It's just really nice because you hear the voices of passengers and what they're doing that day, and I think it really brings it to life. So I really enjoyed it. So
And
the lady
who produces it is now one of our volunteer conductors as well, which has been great. Yeah.
I imagine she's really good.
She's great. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah,
but she was also one
presenter.
of the ones that complained when the driver was basically terrified her. So yeah, he let 8 people stand up on a 16-seater bus going over the Longmynd. Not a good thing. Sorry, Alice. I've been
just got time for last but not least, Alice.
Yeah. I'll be quick. Thanks, Nigel. That was really, really interesting. Mine's more of an opportunity rather than a question. Just to say that we've got our Scenic Rail Britain website, which promotes and encourages travelling sustainably on community rail lines across Britain. And I just thought this would be a really good opportunity where it links in with the railways. Just to maybe highlight it on Scenic Rail Britain as a service for visitors. We've got a page about the Heart of Wales line, but it also could be a separate blog. And I'm thinking maybe we could get some of those volunteer conductors' stories, or if you've got some passenger stories, and we could or we could do it from a visitor's perspective, them taking the train, getting the bus, going to some attractions, that kind of thing, just to kind of give that extra bit of promotion to the visitors that we've got on our website, because I think it's a great service, and you've got some amazing images that we always find images really sells, and with the picture of the bus and the hills in the background. So I think that could work really well. So I'll pick that up with you afterwards if.
Oh yes, please do. Yeah,
sounds good.
We've got some drone footage of the bus as well in
brilliant.
the hills, which is got some lovely photos this year.
Oh.
Thank you so much. Because we like to stick to an hour, we're going to have to finish it there, unfortunately. But it was super interesting. I felt you really know your customers really well, and you've got a real handle on who it is and what they need as well. And yeah, it's just a great case study. So thanks so much, Nigel.
I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was okay.
Very much so.
Thanks very much for everybody for listening and bearing with me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we have the recording of this one and the last one in the pipeline as well for people to watch back. So I'm going to leave it there. And yeah, everyone take care.
Thanks so much. See you next time. Thank you. Bye.
See you later.
Cheers. Bye, everyone.
Just come in to stop the recording.